Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game So taking a super fun and super exciting video, especially for me today. That is because as of yesterday afternoon, Hidden Palace released a new prototype of the original Dead Rising, the pre-E3 50% complete build. And to say this thing is different, has a ton of changes and a ton of different things going on compared to the retail or other prototypes that would exist would be an understatement. This thing all across the board basically feels like a prototype Dead Rising, because that's exactly what it is, with a lot of differences involved. And even though I don't quote-unquote talk about modern gaming often on the channel, I am here to tell you that Dead Rising is 20 years old this year. This game is absolutely retro. It does not matter if it came out on the Xbox 360, this game is old enough to basically be through almost half of a college degree, and that is definitely retro enough for me. And getting releases like this, video game preservation in one of my favorite franchises of all time, absolutely does it for me. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But even though I don't often talk about Dead Rising on the channel, I will tell you, it was the first game I ever played on Xbox 360, and I absolutely fell in love with it. And even though Dead Rising 2 and 3 never quite lived up to the hype of the original, I've always loved this franchise. Now, if you don't notice already, the footage here absolutely is bogging down, and that is because this thing is just absolutely chugging on real hardware. And just so you know, this was captured on an Xbox 360, and big thanks to Andy D for helping with some of that, because he had the bad update on his, where I'm still kind of setting my studio up. But this is the performance you get when you play it on real hardware, so nothing is quote-unquote not working right here, it is just that early in development. But to get a look behind the scenes of one of the most iconic Capcom games of all time, that is spectacular. There's so many different creators out there doing Dead Rising speedruns, talking about prototypes and changes. This franchise still keeps everyone's imagination, and I 100% plan on playing through the entirety of what is here. But just so you know, it is going to be buggy. Every once in a while it could crash, and this is not a complete game in any way, shape, or form. It is just a demo that was created to show off to press and probably get some screenshots from. But you will see as we walk around the mall here, you're going to notice a lot of differences, so go ahead and leave me comments down below and tell me what you spot. I would say the first difference is the zombies here seem way more brain dead, pun intended, than they did in the retail release, because they basically just ignore you if you don't interact with them, and you can kind of just run past gigantic hordes and they don't really bother you all that much. But this is just so much fun, because if you know me and the channel, you know I'm always advocating for preservation, and this is a massive preservation effort to bring this to everyone, including massive fans of the franchise. And you will see here's some entrails popping out of that dude there, because he's just getting completely eaten on the ground. We have done a very bad escort mission. And I understand that some people just did not love something like Dead Rising because of the escort missions and having to actually rescue the survivors, but I always enjoyed it. And I love that dude basically seems like he turned into a zombie here, but is also still alive at the same time. It is a really fun touch. But something like this just really gives us a peek behind the development process of Dead Rising, and I love that because I remember seeing previews for this game before it came out. Now, I am a huge zombie movie fan. I have a massive collection, including some rare DVDs, but stuff like Dawn of the Dead, one of my favorite zombie movies of all time, and having a game back in the day being developed that was basically feeling like the video game version of Dawn of the Dead we never got, and that is what first intrigued me into something like Dead Rising. And then when I actually picked this game up with an Xbox 360, sat down and decided to play it, I absolutely was blown away. Not just by the setting and not just by the vibe, but the fact that there was hardware out there that could put so many zombies on screen at once. And it's one of those things, I have played some of the other prototypes because I am curious how this game came to fruition as well. So having one of the earliest builds out there with basically almost no animations in any of the voices and some really weird animations in the weapons, it is both a hilarious, weirdly janky build as well as an amazing look to see where Dead Rising came from. Let's go to the first quote-unquote soundtrack sample with some voiceover. You're going to see it is completely janky with no animation really whatsoever, but I'll be right back to show you more about this prototype and why I love it.
Come back! Get the hell away from us! Oh, oh, oh. Oh, start. Come on, come on. Start! Oh, damn it! Why would you start?
So it's kind of unintentionally hilarious there because with no background music and no real lip animation and a temp audio track, it kind of feels completely like some sort of not even B tier movie, a C tier movie. But that is just because the game was in development, so of course things aren't going to be finished. As we get to the big outdoor area here where you have the dudes running around on that Jeep shooting at you, you can see differences in lighting and everything else. And that really is the fun thing about a prototype like this. Fans of the franchise can go through and kind of pick out and decide what changes they love, what changes they wish stayed. If you take a look in the background there, you're going to see the rest of the mall basically animated in flat shaded polygons. There's areas in this game where textures just don't exist whatsoever, or textures are completely different than what you would see in the finished game. And picking through all of those again, kind of hunting around to see what's different, is a lot of the fun here. Leave me a comment down below and you tell me, fan or not of Dead Rising, and if so, what was your favorite game? I would say I ranked them in the order in which they were released, Dead Rising 1, 2, and 3, kind of being my first, second, and third place entries. And the remaster of this game, if you haven't played it before on PlayStation 5 or Series X, or even, I think it came out on PC, 10 out of 10 as well. Changed some things in the overall gameplay and some of the story, but otherwise, a more modern version of Dead Rising is definitely something I love. And you'll see here, these trees just don't have any textures on them whatsoever. They're basically Vanta Black in nature. But I just love being able to go through a demo like this and see what's going on, and I love that Hidden Palace, along with their collaborators, are able to bring this stuff to us. Because for every release like this you see, there's 100 games out there sitting in a collector's hand somewhere that they're never going to release unless convinced. And I've said this 100 times on the channel, sharing is caring, and I've never understood the hoarding mindset. If I have something and nobody else has it, I will do everything I can to make sure it's readily available for everyone to enjoy for $0 whatsoever. But there's this entire contingent in retro game collecting where people will just hoard these things. And why did all the zombies just disappear? Absolutely no idea on that one. But that is kind of the fun. Even this map here, a little bit different than we are used to. But the wild thing is, it's hard to believe that Dead Rising is actually basically 20 years old this year. I still remember picking this game up, playing it with friends when I was traveling making ski films, and that does not really feel like 20 years ago. But I think to myself how young I was when I played this game at first, and then I realized, holy hell, it really has been 2 decades. And that is the impressive thing with gaming in general. I 100% consider this retro, but it doesn't look retro. But you leave me a comment down below and you tell me what's your barometer for retro. I would be curious. Just make sure it's friendly and don't turn it into an argument, because people get really aggressive about what the idea of retro really means. But for me, there's 2 criteria that make it considered to be retro and then definitely guarantee it to be retro. If it's old enough to have a driver's license, it can be argued that it is retro, and if it's old enough to have graduated high school and gone to college, then it's definitely retro in my imagination. And that's really interesting to think, because that means some early PlayStation 4 games might fall off into the quote-unquote retro category for me sometime soon. But one more soundtrack sample as well as a voiceover sample so you can hear how early it is, and I'll be right back with just a bit more Dead Rising.
Brad! Oh my god! The sedative's taken effect. The professor won't be waking up anymore.
So one thing that seems to stay consistent from this build all the way into the retail version of the game is Jessica. She definitely has a lot of assets on that asset, if you know what I mean. It seems like the developers at Capcom had a certain thing in mind and they stuck with that all the way from this 50% build to the retail version of the game. But it really is fitting in the world of Dead Rising, because Frank West, not the most mature character in the world, and some of the photo bonuses can be pretty hilarious and tongue-in-cheek as well. But this is just something that's absolutely outstanding in my opinion. I love Dead Rising, I've loved going through prototypes, and Hidden Palace absolutely nailed it with this release. So if you want to check this one out, go over to the Hidden Palace website, no link in the description because those have been weird lately, especially for full builds of games, even prototypes, and check it out for yourself. Just be aware you'll want to run this on real Xbox 360 hardware, nothing else is really going to work. And I hope one day we get a brand new Dead Rising game featuring Frank West from Capcom, because the new remaster was amazing and hopefully that sold well enough to give us a new game. But we are done, keep hunting zombies, and I'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye bye.